Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Where we continue to follow the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden now.
Those are just some of the scenes overnight as thousands of Americans gathered in celebration of Osama bin Laden's death.
Former Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill says he has thought about the mission every day since that May Day in 2011.
From multiple conversations you had with Rob O'Neill over the past year and a half, how'd you get
access? And you described that his head kind of exploded when you hit him.
I actually hit him 3 times because I shot him twice when he was standing and once on the ground.
That is the fucking American badass.
We are not going for fame and we are not going for bravado. We are going for the single mom who dropped her kids off at elementary school on a Tuesday morning, and then 45 minutes later she jumped to her death out of a skyscraper.
If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator.
I'm Rob O'Neill, and this is the Operator Podcast.
Welcome to the Operator Podcast. This is episode 31, and normally it's just me running my mouth, having a good time talking about what I think I know as an operator and finding out what you think you know as an operator. And I follow your comments on Instagram, usually at the Operator Podcast, and sometimes Twitter, but Twitter is very, very mean. But I'm doing my first interview with video this time, and it's a very special guest. His name is Eddie Gallagher. You may have heard of him, former Navy SEAL. Eddie, I'm sure they can see you now. If you start your audio up, I think you should be on there, right?
Yep.
We'll see. Cool. I was doing an interview the other day, and I read your book. Your book's amazing. We'll get into that in a second. But the first time, you get a little bit of notoriety and the fame is really awkward. And I hate when people say, "Here's the famous so and so." But yesterday, someone said, "Here's the notorious Rob O'Neill," and I'm like, "Yes, notorious." So, ladies and gentlemen, the notorious Eddie Gallagher. You may know him from some recent incidents that I'm sure we'll get into. Now I got to push your book.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So the man in the arena, and that's a famous quote. You want to tell us a little bit about the quote from that? Where you got that, Eddie?
Yeah, obviously, it's from Theodore Roosevelt. It's probably one of his most famous quotes. And I mean, if anybody that knows it, it pretty much encapsulates, what we did in our career. The guys that are out there doing the actual job. And then, my favorite part is, it's not the critic who counts. Obviously, this world is full of critics. Everyone has something to say about everything. But if you're not out there actually doing the job, putting in the blood, sweat, and tears, then, your opinion really doesn't mean much to me. You're just going to keep pushing forward and doing what we do. So that's why, I call it the man in the arena, because not only obviously what we did in our career, but that whole turmoil, that 2-year turmoil I went through with my family, and having the government and the Navy come after me, it really did feel like, not just me, but my family was the ones in the arena fighting back, and pretty much fighting back for not just for us, but for all the operators, everybody that we've worked with, because the way we looked at it was if they came after us and we gave up, it would be a black stain on everything that you and all of our other brothers have done over the past 20 years. And
again, when you say from some of the government, no shit, from the third NCIS agent up to the president of the United States got involved with your case.
Yep. Yeah. The Secretary of the Navy ended up getting relieved over it. It got a lot bigger than everybody expected.
And again, okay, so it's the man in the arena, and I read it. I mean, I thought I knew your story. I followed it very, very closely. Everyone was pulling for you, and I didn't realize till I read it. And it didn't take me long to read, and I read it. I'm not shitting you, with a highlighter, and I went back through the whole thing today. I was reading again yesterday, and just the way that not only did you hold your composure, but you didn't even know when you were in the brig what the hell was going on outside, did you?
No, it was. It was quite it was a crazy experience, because obviously I got thrown in the brig without any charges. Nobody told me why I was going to the brig. It was just an order from the admiral, who was Admiral Green at the time, threw me in the brig. And then obviously, if anybody knows the UCMJ, Uniform Code Military Justice, there is no bail system, there's no nothing. So once you're thrown in there, even if you're not charged, you're considered a prisoner and you're in there until your trial. And then the sad part is, some people are in there for years until their trial and nobody knows about it. But yeah, when I was in there, I had no clue. I mean, obviously I was talking to my wife with the, 10-minute phone calls were allowed a day, but there's only certain things you can say over the phone as well because everything's recorded and NCIS is constantly trying to look for stuff. But yeah, I had no idea how big it was getting, probably until like the 5th or 6th month, and I saw my wife on the news.
No, and I read your book. I know you. I know your story, and I have notes. But I like to jump around. But I mean, my few experiences with the NCIS, my initial reaction is, why the fuck did they give these assholes a TV show? That's one of the worst things they could have done. Because they look cool and like there's some law enforcement agency. These fucking people, they're flunkies, but they're not on your team, and they'll come at you like they are. Was that at your? I mean, I had a dude that say he was happy he got some Navy SEALs kicked out for admitting to smoking weed on leave. Just sign here and you're good. And he signed, and they're all booted, dishonorable discharge. And he was saying shit to me. I'm like, that's my as a young E4 at SEAL Team 2, and they're just trying to be your buddy off the bat. Is that sort of what happened with you?
Yeah, I mean, when I came in, when I was a new guy at Team 1, I mean that was probably day one. I was told by my chief, do not trust NCIS. They're out to bag a SEAL, and
that is a good fucking chief right there. That's a great way to learn.
Yeah, well, what was crazy is during our deployment, that time we were in Iraq, NCIS came and hemmed him up about 4 months in, took him away. We all got shut down for 2 weeks, interrogated. And it was, it's the same clown show that they pulled, 20 years later almost with me. They try to be your buddy, but it's so obvious. I mean, they're horrible at their job. Anybody that knows, what they're trying to do or what they're about, you can see right through them. But unfortunately, they do have some power, and they abuse it at every.
They abuse it because I think even it doesn't matter which pay grade, they can fuck you. And I think everyone knows that. And it's almost like NCIS for is Naval Criminal Investigative Service, which they made that show Mark Harmon made look awesome. Like I think he was excellent in that not summer rental, but summer school. He went to become an NCIS cop. But it's like, well, let's get into that in a second. But can we just start where this all started? Because I love talking to veterans. I love talking to team guys and wondering how it all started. Because you're from Indiana and a wrestler, right?
Not a wrestler, yeah, but I'm from Indiana. I grew up Army brat, moved all over the place, mostly in Asia when I was little, and then we ended up in Indiana when I started high school. My dad was out of the Army at that time. Spent about 4 years, pretty much my high school career in Indiana, and then...
Were you born there?
No, I was born in New Jersey, Patterson, New Jersey. Yeah.
NCIS told me you were born in Indiana.
That makes sense.
Yeah, right. So
that shows
high school.
The power of their investigating skills.
They told me they were going to reinstate me and then court-martial me if I didn't say that. So graduate high school in Indiana.
Yep, graduated high school. Spent about half a year after that trying to figure out what I was going to do, and then ended up enlisting in the Navy. I wanted to be a SEAL at that point, and
how'd you find out about them, SEALs?
My dad was obviously in the Army growing up. You hear about certain things, and then obviously the movies, Navy SEALs, with Charlie Sheen, the documentary. Yep.
That one right there. He signed that picture from the character Hawkins. He put, "We finally did it, Hawkins."
Dude, that is sick.
I know a guy. I'll get you one.
Oh, I'll take it. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'll get on. I'll get on today.
Yeah.
So now, was it a long recruiting process, or did you just go in knowing that's what you wanted, and like, how did it work?
Dude, I went in blindly, so I didn't tell my parents I was doing it. Just walked to the recruiting station, and went in. Was like, "Hey, I want to join. I want to be a SEAL." I was pretty much a recruiter's wet dream. He was like, "Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we got you." Signed me up right there. Obviously back then you had to pick a rate, so I was like,
"Yes.
Well, what rate am I going to be able to be a SEAL?" And he's like, "Oh, they're looking for corpsman, which is a medic."
Yeah.
Went to boot camp, went to corps school, but at the end of boot camp, they were calling out where each individual was going, and I was like,
I'm supposed to go to SEAL training. Yeah.
Yeah, I was core school, and then
Did you take the screening test for buds in boot camp?
I did. Yeah.
How'd that go? Was it good?
Yeah, passed it. And then when I was in core school, they had. Do you remember scruff duty?
I do not.
So back then, before they had what they have now, which is like the SEAL.
Oh yeah. They had just been starting that when mine was the opposite. When I joined, I tried to be a Marine at first, and he was literally out to lunch, and I went in and I had someone tell me to get it in writing, and they had the Dive Farer program, and I joined saying I would be a corpsman, but I got out of that. But I did get orders to bud. So, so then you went in with the HM corpsman designation, and then they fucked you, and you went to corps school.
Pretty much, yeah. I was showing up to scruff duty, preparing to go to buds, and then one of the SEALs, it was like 3 a.m. You had to get up, go over there, work out before you started your day at corps school. And then I think I made it about a week and a half, and one of the instructors or one of the SEALs was like, "Dude, you're not even on this list to go." And I was like, "Well, can I get on the list?" And he's like, "No." He's like, you got to go back and get orders or whatever. So at that point, I had to choose. So being a corpsman, you can either choose to go to the fleet or to the Marine Corps. And I chose to go to the Marine Corps. I was like, well, if I can't be a SEAL right now, I'll go do my time with them until it's time to go.
Every corpsman I know that went with the Marines said that was the best move they ever either took advertently or inadvertently, because it's almost like I've heard it's almost a screening process to get to the point of being called doc by the Marines. And that means that they got you, and you're one of them, sort of.
Yeah, and that I was very fortunate in that fact that I got to go with the Marines. And then when I got there, you're pretty much, a Marine without being one. You're with them 24/7. And then if you are motivated, and if you do everything they do or do it better than them, they love you. They respect you. So right away, I gained respect. I was with the grunt unit at 1st Battalion, 8th Marines. Did one pump with them. That was pre 9/11. And then came back from that and took the screening to be in Stay Platoon, which is the sniper platoon in the battalion. Passed that, got in that platoon, and
now you passed what? Passed sniper school?
No, so the screening to get into the platoon is about a month and a half long, and it's pretty arduous. Okay. That's where they select people like you are allowed in the platoon. So the platoon is made up of actual snipers and then non-snipers. So the actual snipers are called hogs, and then the non-snipers are called pigs. And so from there, you're just waiting your turn to go to sniper school. And usually, as a corpsman, you don't get a chance to go to sniper school because it's just the way it is. But because I was so motivated and they liked me a lot, they gave me a slot at Marine Corps Sniper School. They told me, "Hey, you can go, but you will not get a certificate." And I was like, "Yeah, no issue."
Oh, hell yeah!
Yeah, I'll take it.
How was snipers? Now that's at Quantico, right?
No, that was in Stone Bay at Camp Lejeune.
Okay.
One at Quantico, one I don't believe it's at Stone Bay anymore. They might have moved it, and then one out in Pendleton, I believe.
And what was because Carlos Hathcock, most famous sniper, in history, especially in Vietnam, he was the Marine Corps sniper, and he designed Navy SEAL Scout Sniper course. And I based on the Marine Corps sniper course, what in your experience is Marine Corps sniper and SEAL sniper out in Indiana similar?
No, I think obviously the applications of shooting and stalking and all that are similar, but the Marine Corps Sniper School is more of a selection. It's not even close to being a gentleman's course.
Really?
It's about a 75% dropout rate.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was it was an awesome school, but it was brutal. It was about 3 months. I mean, you're getting beat every day. It's similar to buds in some fashion, just where they're constantly beating you on your off time, keeping you up late, no sleep, and then
really like getting dropped down and shit.
Oh yeah.
Really?
You're treated like you're a nasty pig. Like you're nothing until you pass.
Until you get to be a hog. Isn't that like a Marine too to do that?
Oh yeah. I mean that the Marines treat that school as like one of their pinnacle schools. So it's I was in there, actually there was another SEAL in there as well. He made it all the way through. He broke his ankle near the end, but
doing what?
We near the end, you have FTX, which is like a week long. You get one MRE for the whole week, and you're constantly doing missions over and over. And I think he just, ended up rolling his ankle out there in the woods in the swamp. But they let him.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. It's like, I'm thinking of our sniper course and our FTX. I couldn't have broken my leg. It was more of did I put enough Jack Daniels in my rucksack?
Yeah, there's none of that Marine Corps. Like, it's all ruck runs. I mean, you're sprinting everywhere. It's it's an awesome school. I'm sure. In my experience, the first time I worked with Marine snipers was on the USS Austin, and I just finished sniper school, and I'm bullshitting with their 2 snipers in the recon battalion. And they're saying stuff to me. It's like, I was fresh out of the school. I'm like, wow, these guys know their shit. Like that's their job. And it's funny because obviously transitioning when I went over to Buds and then ended up checking in Team 1 because they saw I had gone to Marine Corps sniper. They were like, all right, Ominous Dominus, you're a sniper in the platoon.
Good.
It's awesome.
Were you able
from the school?
Yeah, it's just gonna ask. You got a letter from the school. So, and I think it's not an NEC. I don't think in the Navy description of a job, is it?
No, I don't think so. In the Marine Corps, it is. It's 80.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, it was 8541. Was the
Yeah, I don't think we got one. But if you get you got a command letter as a scout sniper though at Team 1.
Yeah. They were like, hey, he graduated everything, passed everything, and pretty much just gave me a certificate saying like, not a graduation certificate, but hey, he's good to go. So
cool. No, that's good.
He was like,
I would rather have someone that's a sniper says is good to go than like the gray man that's like, yeah, he made it through Buds and here he is. It's like, now that's brings me to something. So how many deployments did you do with the Marines before you got to Buds?
3.
And that's, now one of the cool things, I'm not bullshitting, I know you, and you're a very humble guy. Your part of your book about Buds, which for those who don't know is Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training, the most famous school, the hardest school I think in the world. Your whole book, which is there's a lot. It's a good sized book, is maybe a paragraph or less, and it says, "Yeah, I went to Buds. I was cold like everyone. It sucked."
Yeah, I mean, I figured, when I was writing it, I was like, "There's enough books out there."
Yeah,
where they describe Buds. I was like, I don't really want to spend a lot of time going through, this is what Hell Week was. I'm like, you can check out other books. So I was like,
cool.
Yeah, it was cold, wet,
and that was
every other frog man before me.
You did say yes, but you did say something I could respect because that was Buds class 254, right?
251, and then I
graduated 252. Okay, because if you don't know not you, Eddie, you obviously know Buds started at 1 and then it goes up. And 254, Eddie said, was the last hard class, which is what that's what you're supposed to say.
That's right.
I had a bullfrog when I walked up to a master chief when I was a brand new guy, and I was like, Master Chief, I have a question. He's like, what's that? Where's the barber? Like, whoa, Jesus. And then he said, yeah, what Buds class you? He was like, I don't know. There was only 2 of us and they made us fight it out. It's like, Jesus Christ. I'm just going to go not here. But that was what was it? Okay, let's skip around a little. What was the hardest part of Buds for you?
I would say the hardest part was.
You don't strike me as someone that Hell Week was hard.
No, I mean Hell Week is definitely hard for there's anybody that says it's not hard you're out of your mind. I mean, but I was matured enough. I mean, I did 4 years with the Marines. I went to Marine Corps sniper school, so I already knew the game a little bit, and I knew you just had to put out and just not quit. But, the hardest part, I got rolled in second phase for pool comp.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and to that, it wasn't like, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. It was just the little minute details.
Oh, yeah.
But, that was a learning thing. I was like, all right, man, I just need to hammer down and really get, pay attention to the fine details here.
Can you, in the Reader's Digest version of what pool competency, what it is?
Yeah, so it is obviously in second phase. It's a dive phase, and that's pretty much where you show the instructors that you are comfortable underwater using, the diving rig, which is the 2 tanks. I forget the proper
double hose actuator, the twin 80s.
There you go. Yeah, using the twin 80s, and
that no one has used in decades.
Yeah. Exactly. And showing them like, hey, you're able to perform certain procedures underwater under duress, while they roll you around, tie your hose up in knots, and you're able to perform those paying attention to detail. And so, I mean, that And you know, obviously, I think the big thing with pool comp is, you know, you finish Hell Week and you're like, dude, all right, I made it. Like
Nobody even knows that shit. Nobody knows that when Hell Week's over, you haven't even started yet. You're just you're in a class that we're going to start to fuck with.
Yep. And so yeah, it's just the grind continues, and you know, obviously, I think everybody that's been through buds can relate. You know, eventually, at some point in buds, you're just like worn down. You're like, dude.
Yeah. What I love about buds too, even dudes that eventually quit, is that there's unique stories about everything. Like, even if you didn't make it through Hell Week, you had a room inspection, which is the most ridiculous shit. The biggest circuit. Okay, so jumping around though, so full comp, you get 2 shots on Friday, you get the weekend, you get 2 chances on Monday, right?
Yep.
I failed my first 2 on Friday, and that weekend was the longest weekend of my life. It's like, I got to get this down. But if you don't understand pool comp, it can be an instructor simply doesn't like you. Like if someone said, I didn't make it through buzz because he didn't like me. This is true with pool comp. Or if he tied a knot weird and he didn't want you to untie it, or if you didn't do the procedure right, which is over and over, it can be 20 minutes. It can be an hour. You don't know when you're supposed to stop. And when you finish pool comp, you're kind of like, okay, now I might make it through butts.
Yeah. After you finish that, you're like, okay, I think, and then you're proven wrong again when you go to third phase and you go to the island. And the third phase is not
fucking island. Nobody knows about the island.
No, nobody can hear you scream on the island. That's just you and the instructors and no oversight. So it's always a good time.
Yeah, that was something. You know what I liked about the island though is that you're sort of forced to get in really good shape because you're eating pretty good chow, you're drinking nothing but water and milk, and you're working out. I like it. I found the workouts there were more to build you up to get ready to get to your team type workout.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you know, when you graduate buds, you know, you're a machine. You come right back from San Clemente. You're like, dude, you can't do anything to me.
Now, when you went through, so you did SEAL qualification training, right?
Did, yeah.
When I went through, we did STT, which the coast ran. What was SQT like? I've heard it's better.
It's definitely. I mean, it was good. You know, it evolved since I went through. Obviously, they've made it better, but it's more to get you used to for when you check into a team. So you pretty much go through like a mini ULT or a workup. You go through like, you know, land warfare, diving, CQC, all that again. So you're learning the very basics so that when you check into your team, you're not completely lost. They're like, okay, this guy has a base level that we can work with.
That's pretty smart. They should do it that way.
It's not super stressful. You know, there are some tests, but it's more to see how confident you are. And then I think we had like 1 or 2 guys get dropped in SQT.
Okay. And what is that usually safety violation, something like that?
Yeah, I was doing something stupid. I mean, it was literally like, okay, you're either super unsafe or you are way too immature to check into a team. And we had, you know, guys get the birditis and
yeah. Where do they send them if they don't make it through? They get another shot.
I believe no. I think the dudes that end up going away for like safety violations or anything like that, depending on their reputation in the class, obviously, if the class is like, hey, dude, this guy's a good dude, they might keep him around. But if the class is like, if he's bottom 5 on the peer evals, they'll send him to the fleet. And they're like, yeah, you're done.
And the bottom 5 meaning is that peer evals?
Yeah.
Do they do top 5 too?
Yeah.
See, that was something I remember that from Green Team, which selection, and top 5, bottom 5, or even like picking you aside. Hey, and you got to name them. And if you always put yourself in the bottom 5, you're probably good to go.
Yeah, when I went to Green Team in 2011, and that was the first day we were all in that little auditorium, and they were like, hey, bottom 5, top 5 right now. You don't even know anybody in the class.
I don't know these dudes. Yeah.
I literally stood up. I stood up and turned around and covered my name tape and just started pointing at dudes like
him and him.
Yeah.
And then so did you guys do Alaska?
Yeah, so Alaska back then was after you got your trident. So after SQT, you got your trident, and then you went right to Alaska for cold weather training.
And how long was that? I didn't do that part.
That was about 2 to 3 weeks, I believe.
Did it suck?
No, I mean, it was, you know, you just got your bird, so you're like super excited.
Yeah, right.
I mean, there are levels of it that sucks. You know, the land nav, you're up for days, you know, just walking through the Alaskan brush. And, you know, we went during the summer So what you think would be awesome, because it'd be like, all right, it's not as cold, but really they have, I forget the name of the actual bush they have there, but it grows like, it's super thick. So you're just patrolling through that nonstop. And I mean, they do a really good job of showing you how to survive in the wilderness. You know, you end up, building huts,
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. How about land nav, like with the compass?
Yeah, you land nav with the compass. You learn how to use terrain to your advantage, all that. So,
like, what kind of? Because I remember doing stuff like that, not in Alaska, but like it's kind of like you got to pick the tree in front of you type shit, and kind of walk around left, go right at certain times. Or what were we looking at peaks and trying to walk towards that, or were there peaks?
It's a lot of terrain association. So looking at a peak and be like, okay, that's the direction I'm headed. But then obviously going through the brush and everything, you can lose that. So you're constantly trying to gain back this is where I'm at. That's where I'm headed.
And is it in like a patrol, or you by yourself or with a swim buddy, or how do you do it?
You start off with a swim buddy, and then you link up with another pair. And then by the third day, you're pretty much in a group and you're patrolling
cool.
back to the instructors. Yeah.
And then when do you find out which SEAL team you get assigned to?
I didn't find out. So I got my Trident and I went right to 18 Delta, Sockham in North Carolina. So that was another.
That's a sweet deal. all your guys go to their team and get to be cool guys.
I tried to get out of it so bad. I was like, hey man, I'll turn in my corpsman qual. Just send me. I want to go to, because at that point I was wanting to go to Team 3. And they were like, nope, you're going. You have to go. So
What year was that?
That was 2004.
So we're talking like the beginning of Iraq, like the hot.
Yeah.
Okay. Shit. Yeah. Who doesn't want Team 3 at that point?
I was pretty pissed going to Sockham, but at the end of the day, and I tell everybody this, that's the best school I went to, hands down.
I'm sure.
Yeah. It's like that qualification alone right there guarantees you're going on every op. So
no doubt about it. And you might go on other ops that you want to with other units.
Yep.
Did you guys do live tissue, or am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, we did live tissue. All the goat labs. That's about a month long.
Now, okay, jumping around in my book, because you submitted yours, obviously I submitted mine, both of mine, and then they do block out certain names, and I think they do it just the way that it works is you submit your book, the Pentagon gets it, and then whoever you mentioned, they give it to that unit and they read it. And they blacked out some of mine, and mine were pretty obvious. It said like I was a SEAL Team 2, SEAL Team 4, and SEAL Team blank. Yours has one, and I couldn't figure it out. It said blank SEAL teams. What were you?
The vanilla.
You didn't use the V word.
I did. I said I was in the vanilla SEAL teams, and they crossed that out saying that I couldn't say that word.
That's what I was thinking you said, but I've never said that. I will never refer to the teams as the vanilla teams.
I do. I mean, that doesn't hurt my feelings. I
know. That's so, well, I mean, fuck them, but that's so funny that he would say that.
It was somebody,
I'm trying to do my all Navy SEAL speak, and I'm like, I think I know this.
Yeah.
But I don't.
When they came back with that and they were like, you can't say this, I was like, there's somebody up there is trying to justify their job.
No, that was it. I mean, they have books called Inside SEAL Team 6 that have been approved by the Pentagon, and they just took. I mean, whatever. They took out of mine. Fine. It is someone seriously. If I can just redact this, I can get up to promoted. I can make lieutenant commander, some shit like that.
Yeah.
Ryan Zinke, who's a congressman, a Republican, you could tell when he put one of his books in American Commander, I think they redacted like 100 pages. And so it all depends on who you get. I think I said something nice about President Obama, so mine slid through there.
They were like, all right, he gets a pass.
But I'm impressed with you because there had to be some, I mean, I'm not going to spoil the book, but there were some people that just didn't like you.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people that didn't like me. And that's what we were, when we turned it into the Pentagon, I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I felt the same way.
But honestly, like the liaison that we were, talking to during that time, she was super helpful. And I mean, it took about, I would say 7 months, 6 to 7 months. Before
really? That's fast. That's pretty fast.
Yeah. I was, and I had no complaints about that. I'm like, cool. And honestly, like I thought they were going to throw a huge fit because obviously as you're reading the book, you know that there's the QR codes in there where you can click on and pretty much watch
That was a sweet ad, by the way. That was good.
Yeah.
A good way to do it.
Yeah, I added that on at the end, but I thought that was going to be a big deal, and they did. They were like, "Hey, you can't do this," and we pulled up the Navy website or the official Navy website, and we're like, "Dude, it's all right here. If you go in there, it's in the archives. It's nothing classified. Like you can, watch it all." So they really had no argument behind it, and they ended up having to let us use it. So
every single week, every week we talk about this, and we're looking at new stuff with how we're going to pay back student loans, even though it didn't go through Congress. We're printing money and sending it to Ukraine. We're sending our money all over the place. Why would you trust your hard-earned savings in unstable governments, kind of like we are right now, printing their way out of debt or other ridiculous overseas investments? Take my advice. Protect your financial future with something real. Gold and silver from my friends at Allegiance Gold. Allegiance Gold can help protect your IRA or 401k with physical gold and silver, or if you prefer, have it delivered securely right to your front door. I've been all over the planet, and there is only one universal currency that is always of value, and that is gold. Allegiance Gold has some of the highest ratings in the industry. 5 stars with TrustLink, AAA rated with the Business Consumer Alliance, and A+ from the Better Business Bureau. So go to protectwiththeoperator.com and get up to $2,500 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them the operator sent you. Or give them a call at 844-790-9191. Again, that's 844-790-9191. We can't control this administration, but we can prepare for the consequences of their policies, which are coming. So go to protectwiththeoperator.com. That's protectwiththeoperator.com, or give them a call at 844-790-9191. You have heard me talk about it before, and it's awesome. Have you tried Black Buffalo? I used to dip all the time in the Navy, and I wanted to get away from tobacco, so I started using Black Buffalo. I've mentioned it before. It is the same ritual as traditional smokeless tobacco without the tobacco. There's no tobacco leaf or stem. It's made from food-grade ingredients, and it does have pharmaceutical-grade nicotine if you desire. We have some that don't have nicotine either. But Black Buffalo, same thing. Get done with a meal, throw in a dip, wake up in the morning after coffee. With coffee, have a dip. Black Buffalo has no tobacco. If you are a dipper currently and over the age of 21, check out blackbuffalo.com and get you some. We got a really good flavors. I got wintergreen right here. Go to blackbuffalo.com. Check it out. If you have been paying attention to things, and based on the fact that you are listening to the Operator Podcast, that means you have. I'm sure you've heard of ketones. I've mentioned them before, and they've been on TV. Ketones are a natural source of fuel for your body. They're often created when your stored carbs are depleted, triggering your body to convert fat into ketones for fuel. Unlike fats, though, ketones can cross the blood-brain barrier, allowing ketones to fuel both your brain and your blood. Compared to other sources of energy like glucose or fat, ketones are a more efficient fuel that can produce more power while losing less oxygen. That just sounds proficient. In daily life, your brain and body are fueled by ketones. And when I take them, I feel amazing. You can find Ketone IQ at hvmn.com. That stands for Health Via Modern Nutrition. hvmn.com. Use the promo code THEOPERATOR at checkout, and you get 20% off. Again, that's hvmn.com with promo code THEOPERATOR. Hotel Victor Mike November.com. Remember, this is brain fuel. It's an energy boost. You can take it whenever you need it or first thing in the morning. It's zero sugar, zero caffeine, energy boost whenever you want it. 60% of Tour de France competitors use Ketone IQ, and they are not keto. So that's hvmn.com, and you are looking for Ketone IQ. Use the code THEOPERATOR, get 20% off.
That's really cool. Yeah. I remember when they explained to me that every unit you mentioned is going to get a copy of the manuscript, and then they're going to put their redacts. I'm like, I guarantee that my book's in a shitter at SEAL Team 6 right now. There's no fucking way, because it's amazing. I think that the way they said is you can stay on the speeding train as long as you like, but when you jump off, we're gone. And the crazy one too was when I first got to Red Squadron, the boss said, when we all get out, there's going to come a day when we get out or retire, and if we all work together, we could take over the world, but it'll never happen.
Yeah,
crazy. So anyway, back to SQT at SEAL Team 1.
Yep. Yeah.
And
so
then how'd that work?
that was, I checked into Delta Platoon, 2 Troop, and that was probably to this day the best group of dudes I've ever worked with. My older guys. What was crazy is like not a lot of them had any combat experience. I think like only 1 or 2 guys in that platoon did, and then the rest of them, had done some PI deployments. But they were like the most motivated and like driven dudes I'd been around. It was all about training. It was all about getting better at your job. And we ended up deploying to Iraq. Had a great deployment there. It was really DA heavy.
Was that Ramadi?
No, we were in Hit. About an hour outside of Al-Assad.
Yep.
And then, but we were convoying all over the place back then. It was
jeez,
4-hour, 5-hour drives to go do a hit. But
that's taking your life in your own hands every time you get out there. I remember Tulsi Gabbard said the other day there was a sign outside of her base that said, "Is today the day?" And that's a way you should live your life. Is this it? Fuck it.
Be ready to go, and then.
And how long was the deployment cycle for the first platoon at 1?
Regular deployment, like 6 months, which ends up always turning into 7.
Yeah.
It's the waiting game to go home. But yeah, it was about 6 to 7 month deployment. Came back.
What was like a normal day with a hit? So you leave and it's how long was the convoy? 4 hours?
It depended. Yeah. I mean, I think we even did like an 8-hour.
Were we going to Syria or something?
It was funny. My chief was super aggressive, which I loved. And
yes, of course.
He looked for work any chance. So if there was a chance to go somewhere and do a hit, he's like, "Hey, we're going."
Now, what was the morale of the guys? You said this is a great platoon. They were all about it. Let's fucking go. Let's go hit it. Start to develop type shit.
Yeah. So I mean, the guy we had, Aaron Vaughn was one of my best friends.
Yeah, Aaron Vaughn's a fucking stud.
Yeah, so he was like my older guy. And he was an ASO, so he was always developing targets, bringing in sources. I mean, there was no downtime. I mean, there was downtime, but it was like everybody was always working on getting to the next target. And
Good.
trying to get out. Not
to interject too, but with Aaron Vaughn, with that motivation, also he just looked dashing, didn't he? Guy's, my God, what is there anything you are not amazing at? What a badass.
He was a stud, man.
Yeah, I know.
That's one of those things where I was like, dude, thank God I had him as an older guy.
Good.
And I got to come up that way. But yeah, like usually, we weren't going out during the day. And then around, each night, take off around midnight and then just go hit a variety of targets. Sometimes depending on 1 or sometimes it'd be 5. It just depends.
Now, when you're coming back though, you're talking the sun's coming up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sun's coming up, dropping off prisoners. If we had any, having to go through that ordeal and then go back, debrief, get some sleep, and then start the rotation all over again.
How were the rules of engagement at this point?
Back then it was, they were pretty stringent. I remember my first platoon. I mean, everybody was on edge about, getting hemmed up.
Oh yeah.
Wrong. So we were pretty stringent on shooting dudes. We took a lot of prisoners. We definitely, I'll tell you, we had a really awesome op. It was sort of Vietnam style tactics. We did an ambush. We had the source come in. He was like, "Hey, there's a bunch of guys that want to shoot Americans." So we're like, "Okay." We buried some guns out there and we set up in an L ambush and waited for
the L ambush.
Yeah. And it was about 6 dudes rolled in, waited for them to dig them up. They picked up their rifles and we just dusted them all. And it was awesome. It was,
if you're for any operator from infantry to fucking Delta, the dream op is an L ambush.
Yeah. It's clean. It's, it's just a good time.
Did you have the SAW, the 60?
I was actually in the turret. So we had an L set up, and then we had
you had vehicles on this L.
Our Humvees staged back in the woods. So as soon as those guys picked up the rifles, once the one element from our platoon started engaging, we rolled up in the Humvees real quick and just started laying waste with I had the 240s, twin 240s.
Twin 240s. Okay, you could have actually hung the uniform up then, and your career is complete. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was
the twin 240s. Okay, shit. So yeah, because that was their right around then. So that's 0405. That was their tactic, was to bury, because they they would adjust to us. Us being the coalition, and they stopped sleeping with their guns and would bury them outside. They stopped sleeping on the roof, start sleeping outside. So, how did they? Would you bust them with an ISR, burying them in the hem of the whatever the trees?
No, we actually went out and buried them ourselves. They were
shit, that's even better.
Yeah, these guys were looking for weapons to kill Americans, so we're like, all right, we got some, so we buried them.
That is outside the box. So you had a source tell them that they're there.
Yeah, we had the source lead them there.
Fuck, man, I could have used that info years ago. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it was awesome. That was all due to Aaron Vaughn right there. That was his whole.
Boy, that's smart. That's smart. I mean, that's, you get too many Jags involved, you're tiptoeing. But that's,
oh yeah.
But so were they big on shooter statements yet? Because when we were there at first, they weren't big on you kill someone and then you got to do all the paperwork. What were they doing with you guys?
Yeah, that deployment, I think that's when they started initiating the shooter statements a lot more. So my first initiation into that, we did a DA. I ended up muzzle striking this dude. I came around the corner. He was right there.
Oh, shit.
He was still alive. I treated him afterwards. But during my shooter statement, the JAG was like, and she was a female. She's like, okay, what happened? I'm like, yeah, I entered and he was there. I muzzle struck him in the forehead, split his head open. And she was like, what? And my chief's like, all right, start all over again.
Let's
reword this.
Can we? I know it's real world, but can we take a tactical timeout, training timeout here? Let's back that up.
And as a new guy, I'm lost. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, that's.
But your chief was there with you though.
Yeah, so he was like,
that's a chief, man. That's awesome. That's what he's supposed to do.
He was awesome. Good dude.
We had. Again, this isn't about me, but you want to, if you get a shooting, you want pictures of the exactly where they are and where the gun fell. Just so here's what the crime scene or whatever it looked like. And they got pissed at us because we were putting the guns too close to the body. And I remember I shot one dude that had a grenade and he fell over on his face and his hand was up. So I put a grenade in his hand and took a picture of it, and I brought it back to Intel, and I could hear the Army guy go, "Oh, you got to be shitting me!" I'm like, "No, he was coming right for us, man."
Got him just in time.
Thank God for the rest of us, huh?
You're welcome.
So, yeah. Smoking a cigar. That's too funny. So, standard night, driving out, coming back, and then I was always a big fan of the getting to the chow hall, having breakfast for dinner type meal. The mini sandwiches and the hot sauce. I love when people would send hot sauce over.
So we would have, like where we were at that deployment, we had no chow hall. We pretty much were living off of eggs and, stuff we bought out in town. But then we would drive to Al Asad.
That's where we were at first.
Yeah. And go to, the chow halls there were pretty awesome.
Pretty good. Yeah. So, okay. So that's the first platoon of Team 1.
Yep.
And then what are you in E6 at this point?
I'm in E5. So then obviously we started our second platoon workup. I believe I picked up E6 during that platoon. And that deployment, we ended up going to Afghanistan.
Okay. That's good because, again, the humility that you have is insane because you don't mention any of this in your book, and the book's fucking awesome. You kind of start, whatever. Read the book. It's amazing. But so which part of Afghanistan did you go to?
We went to Kandahar. We were doing.
Jesus, that's a hot place too.
Yeah, that deployment was probably one of the top 3 deployments I've done as far as kinetic wise. We were doing disruption ops that we were tasked with doing that. So we would pretty much fly out to wherever the Taliban was staging, their weapons, or they were, doing the opium trade and all that stuff. So we had DEA attached to us sometimes. So we'd go out, take down a couple compounds and find everything that we needed, but then we'd stay there and pretty much it was like a video game, 7 a.m, icon chatter would come up and you're like, Here we go. And then get into a day-long tick of just going back and forth. Yeah. And then usually staying there 1 or 2 days and then flying back out.
How did you like working with the DEA?
They were awesome.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, they were aggressive. They literally just melded right in with us. They're like, "Hey, we're
cool
guys."
Do they have an HRT a team like that, a SWAT?
I believe they do.
Yeah, because we got we work with the FBI a lot, and say what you want about the desk fuckers back here, but the HRT guys, the hostage rescue team guys we had were just good to go.
Yeah.
I always, it was like I would question why they were with us, because that same reason I didn't carry a helmet cam. Like, you don't need to see everything. Just trust me with my after action. But we got cops with us, but they turned out to be they helped out more with the shooter statement, because this is like a legit cop. Like, I'm an enlisted guy, but that's a fucking cop with a master's degree. So that's cool. But with the DEA, I mean, depends on what you're looking for. I disagreed with the opium burning and shit like that, because that's a way for them to make a living, and the Taliban will pay more if they get. So, we personally got in gunfights with dudes who were just trying to farm, but they picked up guns because we're burning their shit. Did you have anything like that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's a lot of our gunfights were with local people that were just like, dude, okay, you just burned our shit, so we're pissed. And now
and what else we got?
I don't blame.
No.
But that was the gig back then. It was like, all right.
That's the thing too, because like I remember after 9/11, I would have invaded Canada. Bring me to where the fight is. We're going somewhere. So I didn't really, I didn't care at that. Looking back on it, But can you what did you? Because a lot of these dudes, when we talk about shitty leadership, I mean, we haven't talked about it right now, but I read your book, so I know we have the same feelings. With some of this leadership, I heard a story about, and I just want you to relate to this or just add on to it. There was an Army unit going to Iraq, and like right at the end during pre-deployment leave, they switched. Now we're going to go to Afghanistan. So they're coming to get their brief, and the slide said Iraq, whatever deployment, and they said, "Sir, we're going to Afghanistan." And his response was, "Iraq, Afghanistan, what's the difference?" Everything.
This guy's leading us.
Yeah, super. We're going to be just fine. Explain some of the differences.
Differences in
between Iraq out west and then Afghanistan. And
Iraq
Canada.
Obviously is more urban, which then that leads to different tactics, different ways you move to the target and on target. But then Afghanistan was definitely more rural. I would say it was more kinetic just because of the amount of, the Taliban, and then obviously, like we just talked about, the local farmers, if they got pissed, they would engage from like anywhere from 300 to 800 out. And it was very hard to, pick them off because it's their terrain. They know how to navigate around it.
And they've been fighting their entire lives.
Exactly.
I was amazed the difference between Al-Qaeda, which are also foreigners in Afghanistan, and they're also in Iraq, and the Taliban, because the Taliban was a much more lethal enemy.
I thought so too, as well.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were, better trained, whoever trained them, and better.
Well, I think it was us for a while in the 80s. And one of the differences I would say, obviously, and we can get into this later, like sometimes the worst moments bring out the best dark humor. We were saying the difference with Al-Qaeda and the Taliban is Al-Qaeda is going to cut your head off if they capture you. The Taliban just might fuck you for a long time.
Yeah.
That was my observation. Save one for yourself either way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why you carry your pistol on you. That
was it. Yeah, that's what it was for. I'm not going to get in a pistol fight in a mountain. It's just I'm going to loft 14 at you, and I'm keeping one for me.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy. So but Kandahar was different. But then I want to get into. So you did one more deployment, and then you were a platoon chief, right?
No, then I became a first phase instructor.
Tell me a little bit about that. Being an instructor.
I was pretty frustrated when I got orders there because I was put in another platoon. They were like, "Hey, you just go be an instructor." What do they say all the time? It's time for you to give back to the teams, and you're like,
"Fuck that, yeah."
Whatever. But at that time I was married. I still am.
Yeah.
And I just had a new baby, so I was like, okay, I'll take this time. Went there, and honestly, it ended up being a blessing, man. It was a cool experience. I was there with a bunch of good dudes that were the first phase instructor staff, and it was really interesting to be on the other side. I remember
that's what I was going to ask, just what it's like, because my experience was these are just complete badasses that are going to hammer us, but they're team guys with a job. And I can't, when I went through, there were no combat vets. I don't give a fuck what they say. Like the best we had was SEAL Team 2 going to Bosnia, and they were legends. But I can imagine being a West Coast SEAL, just finished up both Iraq and Afghanistan. Now you're an instructor. I mean, did that, because you're barrel chested enough, did that do anything for you, or to help you, or make you nicer to them, or what?
No, I think it made me more stringent on, like, you want the right dudes to get through, because you're like, this job is, we're going to war. And the guys that are going to make it through are going to end up going through with you. So you're very diligent on, like, making sure the dudes that don't belong.
Good.
Don't go away. And that's, it's a tough job. When I checked in, that's when they were trying to grow the force, or that they were like, hey,
yep.
And so
they're always trying to.
Yep. Our classes went from like 150 to 300 students. And so we were outnumbered for sure as far as instructor to student ratio. And
so the guys can slip through.
Yeah. It was 7 classes a year, 7 weeks, 7 classes a year. So there was no break. So we would finish one class on Friday and start a whole nother one on Monday. So it was a constant.
That place must have been a zoo.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, my wife was so fucking pissed because
you're supposed to get time off.
I thought this was a break, and I was more wore out there than I was at the team. I was like constantly doing it, but it was good, man. And the good thing about it is I still have guys that I put through that will reach out to me, and they're like, dude, you were like,
really?
Yeah, like, and not an inspiration, but more like,
no,
hey,
that's but
I looked up to you, and you were a good instructor. Like you were hard but fair. And I tried to, when I was there, lead by example. So like if
of course.
I would do all of the evolutions with the students. I do the 4-mile time runs. I do the 2 miles and swims, just to like be like, hey, this isn't like a one-stop shop.
Oh,
like,
no shit, you're doing the swims with them too, huh?
Yeah, I was like, this is a lot.
That's actually badass. That's really good leadership by example. And you are fast Eddie, so you're doing the runs. That's obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gifted with the chicken legs for sure.
That's cool though, because that was my least favorite part. Even though I was a good runner, was the 4-mile time runs were fine, but the conditioning runs, it wasn't the soft sand or the technique. It was it's up to that instructor when we're going to stop.
Yeah, exactly.
And I could see you'd add a couple extra miles. Like I think you strike me as the guy that would come back from, on your way to the compound and just run past and go right to the Hotel Del. Let's keep going.
Oh, yeah. I pulled that stunt a couple times.
And when you're going to stop. And I love the stunt where you run past and all of a sudden a fresh instructor comes out and you fuck off.
Yes, it's all mind games. Yeah.
It is. No, it's a mind game too. But I think that's what you're saying. What I'm saying is that's important for the mental capacity, because most guys, I think nowadays, they're not going to not. I mean, there's the guys that aren't, but you got to. Once your mind goes, your body follows. You can't. I've never seen anyone say, "Well, my mind was going to quit, but my body kept going." Fuck that.
Yeah, and you see students when I was putting them through that they try to game the system, because they have, all the information's out there now, right? So they know the schedule, and they're like, "Oh, we know what's coming up next," and so. As instructors, you know that they know this. So eventually you're like, all right, we're going to do a little divert to this and see how they handle it.
Good. That's really, really good. They're trying to be scripted. How was the latitude with the head shed, with the command mastery for the XO or the CO? Did they let you do shit, or did they make you go by the book?
A constant battle. It was like pushing a clown car uphill, man. I mean, they were constantly trying to, and here's the thing, like they were constantly trying to lower the standards because they were trying to grow the force, but here's what I tell guys. I'm like, you can have the leadership, come down and be like, hey guys, don't do this. The reality is you have team guys running the show, and they're going to make sure the standards are upheld.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what it is too. We never could figure out what's the system that works, as you want more guys. It's almost like it's the team guy system. It just fucking works. It's just what it is.
Exactly. I mean, and they're constantly trying to reinvent the wheel on that. And you're like, dude, it's been working since the beginning.
No, it has. Yeah. I remember a dude coming in, an instructor. I still talk to him once in a while. And I'm talking, there is no combat. He's a badass. I'm thinking he's an old man. He's probably 26. And I remember him stopping after beating us one day and said, one day, I'm beating you this hard because one day I might go to war with you. And that was one of the dudes. He was in my first platoon, my first LPO. It's like, that's a bad motherfucker. And he was right.
Yeah. And that's the mindset you need to have as an instructor, because you are going to end up working with those guys. And you do have some instructors who abuse that power, and the students know right away. They're like, this guy, you can tell, like, this guy's a piece of shit. You don't want the students because they are going to work with you, and so when you show up to a team, you're no longer an instructor. You're like, hey man.
Yeah, well, yeah. I called the guy instructor something at team 2, like at the gut truck getting a fucking cheeseburger. It's like, no, that's over. Don't even.
Yeah, I had the same thing.
Not until I make chief, then you can call me chief. But other than that, just don't even. I'll see you at the bar.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get into your platoon chief thing, but one thing I heard from buddies of mine that once they left SEAL Team 6, their twilight tour, the last tour was at Bud's, and I was asked them, how are the guys now? And he goes, the biggest problem is air lats. And I'm like, air lats? He's like, yeah, they all walk around like this, like to get these air lats, like they're all these entitled tough guys or some shit.
Yeah, I mean, you do. I definitely noticed that because, and my perspective, I blame it on the what that Great Lakes thing they have, where these guys go right from boot camp to Great Lakes. They're treated differently right from boot camp. They're treated differently at Great Lakes. They're like, hey, you guys are the best. You guys are doing.
They think they're special at boot camp.
Yeah, and it's funny to watch, dude, because these guys show up, and the first day of first phase, the look on their face, they're like, oh shit, like,
just drop the hammer.
It's like, guess what? You guys aren't sure. And
what's the thing with they finish SQT and they send them to like dinners and galas and speaking and shit like that? They do that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So like it's become this huge. I mean, I put it in my book just to like, I'm sure guys in your era and before you probably look at SQT like, oh my gosh, these guys are going to SQT and this and that. Because times change, but
they always change.
I will tell you this: when I got my Trident, we were in a closed room with nothing.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah,
we got punched in our chest, and we were all told like, "Hey, congratulations, but you ain't shit." Like
you ain't shit. Yeah,
you might have to take those off when you show up to a team. Just be ready. You have to earn that every day.
We used to do that. We had the first class. It was that class that was on TV, class 2, 3, 4, and they showed up with their Tridents, first SQT class. And, we said, hey, welcome, but we're putting these in the birdcage until you earn it from us. And I'm still a believer that the platoon chief tells you when you can have your Trident. That's how it should be. And even if you can technically wear it, you're not here. And even with the, it sucks at the time being that guy, but even when you get one platoon done, you're just a little louder. You still really don't know shit.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think you have to earn it again when you get to the platoon and be like, show how competent you are. And, you have those guys that they go to Buzz, they go to SQT, get their Trident, and it's sort of like they take the ruck off them and they're like, well, I've made it. And you're like, dude, you haven't even started yet. Like, this is just the entry.
You're literally still shitting Bud's chow, dude.
Yeah. So like I noticed with these kids now, they have these big galas. It's not the kids' fault, like these students.
No, that's not at all.
But when they're told constantly how awesome they are, and they're getting taken out to dinners and getting treated like, God's gift, and then they show up to a team, and you're like, "Hey, bro, like you're welcome back to reality."
No kidding.
Some of them have an entitled mindset. We're like, "How dare? Like I was just told I was the best. Why are you treating me like this?"
That's crazy.
It causes some friction,
I'm sure. I'd imagine it would. And what's weird too is it's kind of the same thing getting out of the Navy, because when you're in, same thing with the galas and the dinners. We'll fly you here so you can talk, but once you're out, it's like, well, yeah, I'm sure they'll hire me just for being a SEAL. Not necessarily. You gotta. Guess what? You just started your second career, and this is day one.
Yeah, it might get you a foot in the door, but it's like that's all about it.
Oh, it'll get you a foot in the door, but the phone, well, especially if you start giving them shit for free. Like if you just show up and tell them war stories, they're not going to hire you to do it again.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's just, I don't know. That's okay. So let's skip ahead though to when you get. So now you get the platoon chief. We've covered the deployments, the combat, the Bud shit. Then you get a platoon. Now you're the guy. That's the chief. Combat experience. Now you're dealing with new guys, and not even new guys, but guys that have done a pump but haven't really been to combat. What's like the first day like with that?